The Iran is not being destroyed only by missiles. There is a much more silent war happening within its borders, and it is winning. While the world watches armed conflicts, the Iranian economy is silently collapsing. Inflation, isolation, and fear corrode what remains. The Iranian currency, the rial, has lost more than 90% of its value over the last 2 decades. Every regional conflict accelerated that fall. To understand what is happening, we need to go back to the beginning. Iran was, for decades, one of the most promising economies in the Middle East. Oil financed hospitals, universities, and infrastructure. The country was growing. A middle class was emerging with force. Then came the sanctions. First as punishment, then as strategy, and then as a permanent economic prison. The American sanctions cut Iran off from the global financial system. Iranian banks were removed from SWIFT. International trade froze. But banking isolation was only the beginning. The real collapse would come from something few expected: the silent flight of minds. Doctors, engineers, scientists, programmers. Iran has trained generations of highly qualified professionals who leave and never return. It is estimated that Iran loses billions of dollars per year from talent drain alone. It is an invisible hemorrhage, but devastating. And then the conflicts intensified. Every new confrontation in the Middle East sends a shockwave directly into the Iranian economy. When Iran enters direct or indirect confrontation with Israel or the United States, the rial plunges within hours. The population no longer trusts the national currency. Dollars, euros, and gold are hidden in mattresses, in drawers, in holes in the garden. But there is something that few economic reports mention. Iran's military cost is destroying the national budget from within. Iran finances armed groups in 4 countries simultaneously. That cost, which never appears in official budgets, continuously bleeds the state. Meanwhile, inside Iran, hospitals lack medicine, factories close, and inflation eats the salary before the end of the month. The inflation rate surpassed 200% in certain periods. That means the price of 1 kilogram of meat doubled in less than a year. And here is the turn no one expected. Iran's own nuclear program, a symbol of resistance, has become a colossal economic burden. Every centrifuge, every ton of enriched uranium, every underground bunker cost billions that could have been hospitals or schools. New rounds of sanctions, triggered by nuclear advances, shut even tighter the valves of Iranian foreign trade. Iranian oil, the country's main source of income, began to be sold at enormous discounts to the few buyers willing to take the risk. China and Russia bought that cheap oil, but the relationship is not one of alliance, it is economic exploitation disguised as partnership. Iran receives less than it deserves for its resources, and yet it has no alternative. The dependency has become structural. And then something happened that reorganized everything. The direct attacks between Iran and Israel in 2024 broke a psychological barrier that had existed for decades. For the first time in modern history, Iranian missiles landed on Israeli territory, and the rial collapsed 40% in 1 week. Investors fled. Foreign companies that were still operating in Iran accelerated their exits. Isolation completed itself in real time. But the most disturbing part was not the fall of the rial, it was the government's response. Print more money, always more money. More money in circulation without equivalent real production means more inflation. It is a cycle that feeds on itself until collapse. Iran's middle class, which was once the country's pride, is disappearing. Not in flight, but in silent dissolution. University professors drive taxis, engineers work as delivery drivers, doctors take 2 jobs to pay the rent. And here is the central paradox that no economist can easily resolve. Iran has everything it needs to prosper, and yet it sinks. Oil reserves, among the largest in the world, natural gas in abundance, fertile soil, strategic geographical position, young and educated population. But all of this is blocked by a political system that chose external confrontation as a strategy for internal survival. When there is a real or perceived external threat, the population unites. The external enemy distracts from internal economic failure. It is an ancient strategy. But that strategy has an expiration date, and the signs that this date is running out appear in details the government can no longer hide. Spontaneous protests over food prices, truck driver strikes, teachers in the streets. These are not political events. They are events of economic hunger. And the most revealing of all, Iran's own elite is moving its money out of the country. When those on the inside do not trust, something fundamental has broken. Real estate in Dubai, Turkey, and Canada bought by Iranians. Transfers via cryptocurrencies to escape sanctions and protect assets. Iran's economic future depends on a choice the country has not yet made: integration or resistance, and the time to decide is running out. If Iran achieves a lasting nuclear deal, sanctions would be suspended. Specialists estimate that the economy could grow 10% in the first year. But if conflicts intensify, if there is an attack on nuclear facilities or a military response at scale, the scenario changes completely. Economists from the International Monetary Fund warn a large-scale direct conflict could shrink the Iranian economy by up to 25% in a single year. 25%. For a population of 90 million people, that is not a statistic. It is a human catastrophe with a name and an address. And there is a final element that rarely appears in Western analyses. The generation that will decide Iran's future is already fully connected to the world. They use VPN to access the world. They consume global content. They think in multiple languages, and they no longer accept the narratives their parents accepted. This generation does not want war, does not want sanctions, does not want isolation. It wants what any young person in the world wants: a life worth living. What happens to Iran's economy in the coming decades will not be decided by presidents or ayatollahs alone. It will be decided by this generation. And perhaps that is the most important data point in this entire analysis. Iran is not doomed. It is at a crossroads, with choices still possible. The economy that bleeds from within still has a pulse, but the window to turn this around is closing, and the entire world will feel it if it closes for good.